Hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the session today. Yeah, hope you all can hear me. So let us start the session. So if you remember, I think last sessions we have seen basic concepts related to the interfaces and the console walkthrough. And in this session, we are going to start a new topic that is GCP's IAM and admin. Okay. So let us try to understand what is GCP IAM and admin. Okay. So in Google Cloud Platform, we have a IAM and admin, which is very important service where you are going to take care of the project management. You are going to take care of the project management. You are going to take care of the access control. For example, assume that you are working in a team. Okay, you are working in a team. In that team, there are three developers are there. Two developers and one tester is there. Okay, and similarly, you have a client also. You need to provide access to the client to view your data. You need to provide access to your services. For example, you are working in a GCP project. There you are using the BigQuery, data proc, data flow. Okay, what do you need to do is that for these developers, you need to provide editor access so that they will be able to work on this BigQuery, data proc, and data flow. They will be able to create a data set. They will be able to create some pipelines and all of those things. So they are going to edit something, so that you need to provide a editor access to them. Similarly, there is a tester. You need to provide the viewer access to him, so that he will be able to verify the data inside these data pipelines or inside this BigQuery, so that whether the data is correct or not, he is going to test it. Okay, so this is how you have to provide whenever you are working in a project. You have to provide the access control, or you have to provide the access to your services, so that the developers or the testers or the client or anyone, you can able to provide the access to them, so that they will be able to have a proper access to the services, and they can able to have the access to the data. Okay, all that can be done in the IAM only. Okay, all that can be done in the IAM only. IAM and admin is one of the service where we are going to take care of the authorization to each and every service in the GCP. So what it will tell is that it will tell you who can do what on which resource. In IAM, I nothing but a identity, and A nothing but a access, and M nothing but a management. Identity and access management. Here you are going to talk about who can do what on which resource. It totally explains who can do what on which resource, nothing but a authorization. Okay, with IAM you can manage the access control by defining who has what are type of access for which resource, who has what type of an access to the which resource. Okay, so for example, in IAM, sorry, for example, so assume that you are working on a different services. So this is one service, this is second service, this is third service. Okay, so in your project, if you are working on these three services, if you have a developers, if you have a developers, you need to provide a proper access to them. Okay, which is very important aspect, sir. If you don't provide a proper access to them, there will be a misuse of access will happen. A misuse of access will lead to the data leakage, will lead to the security issues. For example, this guy needs an editor access. If you provide him the viewer access, then he will not be able to work work on data sets and tables because he is the one developing the things. If you do not provide him the editor access, but if you have provided him the viewer access, then he will not be able to do anything. Okay. Similarly, this guy also needs an editor access, but unnecessarily this is a tester. If you provide him the editor access, he is supposed to test the things only. But if you provide him the editor access, what will happen is that unnecessarily he will be having an extra access. Then he may misuse the data. He may misuse the access. Okay. So you always, based on their roles, based on the work they are doing, you have to provide the proper access to them. That entire proper access to the services to these developers can be done using the IAM only. Can be done using the IAM only. So these people are we are calling as identities, guys. In IAM, I nothing but what, sir? In IAM, I nothing but identities. Identities. So in IAM, identities are principles. You can call anything. Okay. Identities are principles. Identities are principle nothing but a user account, a service account, or a group of accounts. If you are working in a team, if there are two developers you wanted to provide the same access, you can create a group for them. Okay, identities can be so this is what we call as the identities. An identity can be a user account, or a service account, or a group of accounts, or a group you can just say. Okay, so this is what is. In IAM, I stands for identities. Identity is nothing but a user account, guys. For example, these developers will have their own account to log in into the Google Cloud platform. That account is nothing but a user account. User account is nothing but a human account. Service account. When two services wanted to interact with each other programmatically, then we can use service account. A group of accounts in your team, you have a four developers, all four developers are working on the same thing, so you don't want it to provide the access individually. In that case, you create a group. That group you can call it as a group of accounts. Okay, so in IAM, I stands for identities. Identity can be a user account or a service account or a group of accounts, and this is what we call as a resources or a services. Resource, you usually call it as a resource. Okay, identities needs an access to the resources. What is this one, sir? This one is nothing but an access, but not Gmail account. It's a Google account. Okay, if you wanted to log in into your Google account, it can be a Gmail account or it can be anything. So you can create your own account, right? So this is what is your Google account. Okay, so let me go back to the slides. So IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. Who can do what on which resource? It tells you who can, you can manage the access control by defining who has what type of an access for which resource. If you wanted to define the who has what type of access for which resource, you have to go to the IAM only. Okay, it's in a simple words, who can do what and which resources. If you wanted to define this entire thing, who, access and resource, if you want to define all of these things, we can directly go to the IAM. In IAM, I stands for identities. I stands for what, sir? I stands for identities or principles. An identity can be a user account or a service account or a group of accounts. User account, it can be, you can see here, an identity can be an individual user account or a group of users with similar roles or responsibilities. It can be an individual account, sir, or a group of users with the similar roles and responsibilities. As I told you, if you are working in a team, if you have three developers, they are working on the same services and they need the same access. In that case, you can create a group. Or if they wanted to provide the individual access, you can provide an individual account access to them directly. So we will see how to provide an access. Don't worry. And it can be a service account. A service account can be an account used by an application or a service to authenticate and interact with the GCP resources programmatically. Okay, if there are 2 to 3 services, if they wanted to interact with each other programmatically, you can use service account. We will see in our upcoming sessions how to create the service account and all of those things. But try to understand, a service account is something, it provides the authentication and interaction between multiple GCP services programmatically. Okay. And the next thing is, in IAM, I stands for identities. In A stands for access. A stands for access. In Google Cloud Platform, access will be done via roles. Okay. In Google Cloud Platform, access will be done via roles. In IAM, A stands for access. Access will be done via roles. A role is nothing but a set of permissions. A role is nothing but a set of permissions, sir, that determines what type of an action an identity can perform on the GCP resources. For example, this is a role. You can think of this is a role. So this role can be a permission one, set of permissions, right? Permission 2, permission 3. Okay. So these permissions, you are nothing but a role. A set of permissions is nothing but a role. A role will be assigned to the identities, so that from now on, these identities can perform certain actions which are permitted by the role. Okay, so that is what is role. What is a role, sir? A role is a set of permissions that determine what action an identity can perform on a GCP resources. A role is a set of permissions and define what an identity can perform on the GCP resources. Okay, let me tell you, for example, for the same example, so this is the same thing. So I can't just provide one permission, right, to all of these 3 services. What I have to do is that, for example, assume that same set of services are there. Okay, we need to provide the access. Now, take the developer one. Okay, we need to create a role now, so that they will be having an access to them, right? So access will be done by a role. We need to create a role. Role 1, so that it defines the access to the BigQuery. For the same guy, we need the role 2 also, and role 3 also. Okay, so for role 1, it provides the access to the BigQuery. Role 2 provides the access to the data proc. Role 3 provides access to the data flow. No. So a role defines what type of access that you have on a particular resource. Okay. So it defines what this particular guy can do on these services. Defines, for example, when you assign a role to the user directly, what will happen is that it it will tell what a user can do on that GCP resources. So this is one, this is two, this is three. You define the roles, or you assign the roles to the user so that a user can perform certain actions on these services. But what are those actions? What are those actions? See, role is a set of permissions. Okay, but where are those permissions? So this role says you have an access to the BigQuery. But what type of an access? Whether it is an editor access, whether it is an editor access to the BigQuery dataset, or a table level, or a view level, or a stored procedure level, or a model level. So you need to specify the set of permissions. So that is the reason a role is a set of permission. Okay, for example, here I will say BigQuery data editor role. One of the role is BigQuery data editor role. So one of the role is BigQuery data editor role, sir. Okay. One of the role is BigQuery data editor role. So if you look at the role, so for this guy, I have added one of the role, that is BigQuery data editor role. So this R1 is nothing but a BigQuery data editor, sir. Okay, when you provide a BigQuery data editor role, what this guy getting? You can't just say by looking at the role, you can't say this guy is having all the access. No, right? In such a scenario, if you wanted to see the permissions of that particular role, you need to go to the Google Cloud platform and find all the permissions listed in that particular role. For example, let me go to the Google Cloud platform and tell you how this entire process will work. Okay, let me go to the IAM. So you have an IAM, which is nothing but identity access management. And in this identity access management, so for example, if you wanted to look at it, how the interface looks like. So if you wanted to grant access to one of the person, you click on grant access. Can anyone tell me what is principal? We need to add the principles. Can anyone tell me what is principles, sir?
Set of permissions.
Principal is the username.
I want you guys to give me the answer properly. Some people. Correct. Correct. So a principal can be a user account, or a group of accounts, or a service accounts. Okay. What is a role? Can anyone tell me?
Those are set of permissions.
Set of permissions. Now, what you will be doing is that you come here and you add your principal. Nothing but your identity, nothing but your username, or a group of account, or a service account. You come here, for example, I wanted to add one thing. Let me say my account only. I wanted to add. Assume that this guy is working on the Google Cloud platform. This particular guy is my team member. I wanted to provide him the BigQuery data editor role. So I added him his username here. I come here, I select the role. I go to the BigQuery. So this is BigQuery. In BigQuery, you have a plenty of the roles. For each service, you have a plenty of the roles here. BigQuery data editor. So I have provided him the access to this particular. I have assigned. I am trying to assign the role here, but I do not know. Is it listing out all the permissions here? All right. So I wanted to add this role to this guy, but that's perfectly fine. But I wanted to see what are the permissions in this role. I wanted to see the set of permissions. So when you wanted to see the set of permissions, you can go to the roles section. On the left side, you have a roles section. Click on this roles section. And you can come here and you can search. You have a total 1515 roles are there. So one of the role you wanted to assign it to your developer, and you can see here BigQuery data editor role. Click on it. Okay. How many permissions are assigned under this role, guys? Can anyone tell me? Even permissions are there. So why this many permissions? You have to understand, sir. The role is a. I'm going to assign the role to the user, but that's perfectly fine. But role is a set of permissions you told. But can you show me the set of permissions? Means that 37 permissions are here only. So what it will say is that, for example, so when I say a BigQuery data editor, in BigQuery you can create the data set. In BigQuery, the hierarchy for the BigQuery will be like this. In a BigQuery, if I go to the BigQuery, so BigQuery is like your one of the MySQL or whatever it is data warehouse only. That's fine. So in BigQuery, you will be having a data set, you will be having a table, you will be having a view, you will be having a stored procedure, you will be having a functions, you will be having a models. Okay. So in BigQuery, these are the things that you will be having. So for each, for example, when I say a data set create role, let me say edit role, edit, view, list, get. So for each and everything, you will be having a set of these three or four permissions. For here also, you will be having that. So this is how for data set level, certain permissions will be there. Table level, certain permissions will be there. View level, stored procedure level, function level, model. Model is nothing but in BigQuery, you can also create machine learning models as well. So that's the reason model level also you can able to create you will be having certain permissions here. Okay, so this is how that is the reason it is not just a one permission, it is like a set of permissions. You can also come here and see it. Dataset create, dot get dataset get IAM policy, update tag. So models create, models delete, model export, model get data, model get metadata. So this is how you will be having set of permissions. A role is a set of permissions. If you wanted to see those permissions, you can always come to the roles section. And total, how many roles are there, guys? 1518, 1518 roles are already defined by the Google. Usually, we call them as a predefined roles. We will see now in some time. Okay, so this is how you will be able to see the set of permissions here. And now, once you got to know the set of permissions, you come here and you grant the access. You select the principal, you select the role. So that is how it is. Okay, so when you go back to the slide, what is a role, sir? A role is a set of permissions. What it can do, it determine the what action and identity can perform on the GCP resources. It is correct or not? It will determine and what type of actions that the identity can perform on the GCP resources. Okay, so this is you can see here. A role is a collection of permissions or a set of permissions. Sir, the one more thing is that you see here permissions. So one of the permission is delete, get, list, machine type, start, stop. So you have a set of permissions here. So this is one permission. Sir, can I assign the permission to the identity directly? Can anyone tell me?
No, sir. Only through a role we can assign.
Yes. You cannot assign a permission to the user directly. Okay, but you can call all the set of permissions you can create it as a group, and that group you convert it as a role, and you can assign the role to the user directly. Okay, you can't grant the permission to the user directly. Instead, you can grant them a role. Even though you have a one permissions also, you create that as a role, and then you assign the role to them. Okay, so that is what it is. We will see how to create a role also, how to use the roles also. We will see, guys. There are three types of roles. We will see the difference between them also. You will understand that. but you can't grant them a permission to the user directly. Instead, you grant them a role. When you grant a role to the user, you grant all the permissions that the role contains. It's correct or not? When I provide or assign the role to the user directly, it does mean that all the permissions will be assigned to the user. So that is what it is. Okay. So this is what is a role. In a simple terminology, if you wanted to look at it, you can look at it, guys, here. What is a, you wanted to assign a role to the user directly. Okay, you wanted to assign a role to the user or a group of users or a service accounts. A role is a set of permissions. A permission is nothing but access allowed on a particular resource. Right? So this is our simple diagram which tells you role will be assigned to the identities, and a permission can be, an identity can be a user account or a group of accounts or a service account. A permission is nothing but a role is nothing but a set of permissions, and permission will be nothing but a access allowed on a particular resource. Okay, so this diagram gives you all the information. Anyone have any questions until now? Please raise your hand, guys. Yes, Kishore.
My question is about we know how to create a role from your explanation, but how to import those principles? So anybody or everybody who have access to, I mean, who have Gmail account, or how do we actually create those principles or identities?
How do you create means? Sorry, I did not get you. You will be, for example, if you create your account, you will be having this account, right?
Now, let's say if there is a developer who only have Gmail account, and I want that developer to have access to one of my service, BQ service.
Okay. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You don't need to create it. You can directly go to the IAM and you can provide them access. Okay, in our upcoming sessions that I will show you, for example, if you create any of the access, for example, I'll go here. So you wanted to grant an access, you add an email address. For me, I do not have, for this account, I do not have my I do not have, see here, for this particular, so Gmail account of mine, I do not have any Google account. Okay, for this account.
Yeah, there's no GCP account, but you just have an email.
Yeah, I just have an email. Okay, but the email address into one must be associated with the active Google account. Okay, it is. It may not be an active Google account. 1 minute. Johnny Saidul Johnny. Yeah, this one. Okay, why?
Email and domain must be associated with any active Google account. Okay,
No, no, 1 minute.
yeah, but my question is that only, sir. Like, if I
Yeah, you
have a
can add here
Gmail
directly.
account, yeah,
You don't need to have a Google account separately. Okay, so
okay,
you don't need to separately have a Google account to access any of the service in the GCP. If you wanted to just access, okay, if you wanted to just view the data, just wanted to view something only, you don't need to have an access, or you don't need to have a create an account. But if you wanted to edit any of those things, you need to have a separate Google Cloud account.
okay,
Okay, if you wanted to work in a project, you need to have a Google account for that. Okay, all the developers, when you are working in a team, all will be having their Google account. They have to Google, they have their own Google account to be created. And I told you how to create an account. You follow that process, then only your admin or whoever is, they will be granting the access to you so that you will be able to working in that particular project. Okay, this is how the project is, right? Yeah.
got it.
Yes, anyone have any other? Yes, Vinod. We can create a customer. We will go. I will tell you how to create a customized roles. Yeah. In the next minute, I will tell you. Yeah. Anyone have any other questions so far here? Unable to understand the set of role or this one, that one. So just wanted to let you know. Okay, that's fine. I think. Yeah, it's a Google group only. Yeah. Let me gonna go there. So this is what we have discussed. And there are three types of roles, guys. One is basic roles, predefined roles, custom roles. Okay, there are three types of roles that we have. Okay, let me gonna tell you what are these things. So one is basic roles, guys. So in a basic role, basic roles are the fundamental roles, guys. Okay, basic roles are the fundamental roles in the Google Cloud Platform. By default, it has access to most of the GCP resources. Okay, by default, it has access to most of the GCP resources. That is the reason it called as a generic roles. Generic roles. These are not specific to any service. So by default, it has access to all the resources or most of the resources in the GCP. By default, so if you assign a basic role to one, for example, let me gonna show you one more point. So the basic roles can be editor role, viewer role, and editor, viewer. What is that one? Owners. Okay, so these are the three basic roles, guys. So what is this one? Let us try to understand. See, when I say basic editor role, what it does mean is that you can read this point. Basic editor role means it by default, it's not B sir, it is by default. By default, it has a access to editor access to the most of the GCP resources. By default, it has a editor access to the most of the GCP resources. It's a very dangerous role. Okay, it is not specific to any service. By default, if you provide a editor access to the by default, if you provide editor access to the any of the user, he will be having a editor access to most of the GCP resources. Okay, for example, look at here the why the problem. I'm gonna tell you. Assume this one. Look at here. I have here BigQuery. In their project, they are working on a BigQuery, Dataproc, Dataflow. Assume that they are working on a Dataproc, Dataflow, and BigQuery. Hello? Mother? Okay. Sure. Okay. Sorry, guys. So, by default, it will be providing the access to most of the GCP resources. That means, for example, if I have a developer here, developer one, if I provide him the basic editor role, okay, I wanted to provide him the basic editor role. Can you tell me, does he get an access to these services or not? Can anyone tell me, does this guy gets access to these services or not? And additionally, can he get an access to all other services as well? Yes, all other
Yeah,
services.
yes, sir. You said it's the default role, right?
Right.
Default role
Yes,
has access to all the services.
correct. So not only he is getting the access to the required services, additionally, this guy is having an access to all other services in the GCP. And not only a normal access, he will be having a what type of an access, sir? Editor access. So that is a dangerous role. Editor means that means this guy having an access to these services, this is perfectly fine. But he will be having an access to all other services in the GCP also. where he may misuse the access. He may be working in some other services as well, creating a cluster, misusing the data leakage, plenty of the other things will also happen. So that is the reason basic roles most of the times the companies does not provide it to the any of the developers. So the problem is this one only, because even though if you provide a viewer access to one of the tester, he should be having a viewer access to these services only, but he will be having a viewer access to other services as well. So that is the reason most of the time basic rules does not provide to the developers, because by default it has a access to the most of the GCP services. That is the reason it is also called as a generic role. So it is not specific roles, it is generic roles. Okay, so this is the problem. Is it clear? Anyone have any question here? No, it has created. See, basic roles created. For example, you have a company owner. Okay, you have a company owner, and he wanted to have an access to everything. You have a owner, and at present you can think of like this. So you can't just create a I mean the technology is like this, guys. You can't just directly create a airplane. You may be faster. So if you want, you will be walking at first, right? So at early stages of human life, they will be walking. After that they will be doing a cycle. I mean if they wanted to go somewhere, they have a cycle, and after that they have a bike, they have a car, they have a train, they have an airplane, so something like that, right? So you can't directly create a airplane. So the technology is that when the Google Cloud Platform was actually discovered, they have the fundamental role, basic roles only, and these are that's the reason it is called as the fundamental roles. In that case, if their requirement is that everyone wanted to work on the GCP resources. For example, even nowadays also there are few people who wanted to work on almost all the GCP resources. In that case, I can directly provide them the editor role, right? But in some companies, mostly in the MNC companies, your role will be specific to one of the services or two of the services only. If I provide him the editor role, there will be a problem. Okay, so in a startup companies, if you go, you need to have a access to all the services. In that case, startup companies, it's very good for you to have a basic roles. Okay, so this is how at the first basic roles were discovered, and after that time they got to know that there is a problem with the basic roles. They got to know that this is a dangerous problem with the basic roles, and they have seen plenty of the problems or issues happening. So that's the reason they have discovered one more role, that is, I'm going to put it, I'm going to create it here only. That is predefined role. So this is second one is predefined role. These are specific to the services. These are specific to the services, guys. Okay, so the very important thing is the predefined role. The name itself, it is saying you predefined. It was already defined by the Google. Okay, the predefined roles are specific to the service. Specific to the service. For example, now for the same scenario, you have a BigQuery data prop data flow. You have a developer here. Earlier you have provided him what kind of an access? You provided him the basic role. Now I don't want it to provide a basic role. I will select a predefined role, BigQuery data editor. If you remember, I have told you this one. BigQuery data editor role. So when you assign a BigQuery data editor role, so this guy, first thing, okay. for this only for the BigQuery. This guy for the BigQuery, when I provide him the BigQuery data editor role, he will only be having an access to the editor access to the BigQuery. Okay, assume that they are only working on one service for now. So if it is a one more service, you will say data proc data editor as well. Okay. So for now, assume that they are only working on one service, that is BigQuery. So that's the reason what you have done is that for this guy, you have created a BigQuery data editor role. Okay. Now he will be having an access to only one service. So predefined roles are specific to the service. For each service, they will be having a set of roles. And when you say a BigQuery data editor, that guy's access will be restricted to the BigQuery only. He will not be having access to any other service. So this is what is a BigQuery data editor role. Any question here? No. Great. So now one more problem is that one more problem also they have seen, and this guy, so at present the projects were very flexible. After some time when you keep on working on something, and they have seen a one more problem here, that so in this project they are working on data set. They are creating the data set, they are creating the table, they are creating the stored procedures, functions and views. Okay, so this is how they are working on in their project. They are working on this thing. Okay, they are not working on the models. They are not working on the models. Now if I provide in the BigQuery data editor access, what are the permissions that we get? We get all the permissions related to these things. We also get all the permissions to these models as well, but they are not working on the models. They're only working on this thing in that particular project we are talking about, guys. In that particular project, they are creating the data set, table, functions, stored procedures, and views. They are not creating any models. But if I provide him this role, and this guy will also be having an access to creating the models and viewing the models and modifying the models also, and which we don't want that. So this is a typical requirement of the project. So most of the times this is not a requirement, but this is a typical requirement where they are only working on the few options in that particular service, and the role actually contains about all the permissions related to that particular service. Let me go and show you first. So if I go to the roles, predefined roles are commonly used roles, guys. Predefined roles are commonly used roles. One minute. No, let's not worry about it. So BigQuery data editor. So when I say set of permissions, you see here, this set of permissions are also including the models. So predefined roles are the perfect to me because they define only the access to the permission, particular service, right? They only provide the access to the particular service. That is perfectly fine. But the problem here is that sometimes 95% of the time you don't get any of the problem. Only in the 5% of the time, people will be looking at these kind of things also. And the problem is that so they are not in that particular project, they are not working on the models. And Google has not given any particular predefined role by removing those set of permission from the BigQuery data editor. What we can do? In that case, we can actually create a custom roles. Okay, if your requirement is not satisfied with the basic role and predefined roles, you can come to the custom roles. Custom roles are granular roles. Okay, predefined roles also granular roles. It is further granular. Further. granular roles. Okay. So in this one, this is also specific to the services only. The thing is that here earlier we have a BigQuery data editor. Custom role cannot be defined by the Google because predefined roles are who are creating the predefined roles, guys. Google has already created the predefined roles for your usage purpose. So they have already done such kind of a groundwork, and they have created a predefined role for you, and so that you can able to directly use it. You can think of a ready-made ready-made roles. But you have a basic roles also provided by the Google. These are also pretty. These two are the ready-made roles, readily available, so that you can able to use it for your project requirement. But sir, I need a role. That role consists of only access to this services, but not this services. I don't find any of the role. I don't find any of the basic role or a predefined role. So what I have to do? So that admin or DevOps engineer asked me, and what I have to tell is that you go to the predefined role and find the better match of your developer permission. You find a better match of the role that you are looking for. And when you find the better match of the role, they got this role. The better match is this role. Okay. But this role will be having access to the models only. Remove those model permissions. Okay. Remove. Minus means remove. Remove the permissions related to the models. So that when you remove certain permissions or when you add certain permissions, sometimes you may be adding also, sometimes you will be removing. So in this scenario, when you remove certain permissions from the existing predefined role, you can actually create a one more role that is called as a custom role. A custom role can be created from the existing predefined role by adding or removing certain permissions from it. By adding by removing certain permissions from it, or you can create your custom role from the scratch also. But if you try to create a custom role from the scratch, what is the problem, guys? It takes a lot of time for you to add the permissions for this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Then that's it. You can create a role, or you can take this role and just remove these permissions so that you can have your custom role. Okay, so let me gonna go here, and you can see here custom roles. You can click on create role. A role is nothing but a set of permissions. You have to add your permissions manually here from the scratch. Why it is taking time, but anyway, let's wait. So this is a custom role, sir. You can give a name for you. You can give a certain name. I wanted to create a custom role. That custom role is test custom test custom role, sir. Okay, so by default, you see here when you try to create a role, you do not have any permissions. You have to add the permissions. So when you click on adding the permissions, you have a set of permissions here. If you wanted to add permissions related to the BigQuery, you can search. So all the BigQuery permissions will be listed out here. 161 BigQuery permissions are there. What do? You come here, you keep on add these permissions like this and click on OK. You select all the permissions and click on OK. Not only for the BigQuery. Okay, if you wanted to add some permissions related to the data proc. Okay, so when you select a data proc, so these are the data proc list clusters batches, and you click on it. So you can add permissions here and click on create. So that's where you can create your custom role from the scratch. From the scratch, you can create your custom role. You see here, test custom role. This is your custom role from the scratch that you have created. And this role can be assigned to user directly. This role can be assigned to the user directly. So that is how you have created your own role. Sometimes, so this is from the scratch. Sir, I wanted to create a role. I wanted to create a role from the existing predefined role. So you have a BigQuery data editor. I want, sir, this is 37 permissions. I wanted to remove 7 to 8 permissions of the models and I wanted to create a role from this one. Can we do that? We can also create a custom role from the existing predefined role by removing or adding some certain permissions from it. Okay, so where do we do that, sir? You see here BigQuery data editor, edit role. You can see here create from role. So when you click on create from role, this will come here. I'm going to say test BigQuery data editor role. Okay, test BigQuery data editor role. And you wanted to remove certain permissions related to the models. You click on models, 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 models. So you click on it, and similarly you can go set, and you see here some more models are also there, and you remove it. So removed permissions are this many removed permissions, and click on create. So from the existing predefined role, you have removed certain permissions and you have created that as a new custom role. You see here, you created a new custom role. You can see here. This is a, okay, sorry. Okay, something wrong. Okay, anyway, you have created, right? So let me gonna go to the IAM, and you have created two custom roles and you wanted to assign it to your developers. In that case, you click on grant access, you add your developer username, you come here, you click on custom. When you click on custom, you see here, sir, test BigQuery data editor, test custom role. So this is how you can click on this thing. Sorry, click on this thing so that that role will be assigned to you and assigned to your developer. Okay, so this is how you have a three types of a three types of a roles are there. One is basic role and the predefined role and the custom role. A basic role is a fundamental role. By default, it has an access to the most of the GCP resources, and it can have a basic. You can see also see here. So you can click on basic. You have a browser, editor, owner, viewer. So when you click on editor, you see here. View, create, update, delete most of the GCP resources. Okay, so that is how. And sir, where I can see that. So this is quick access where you will be having custom, basic, and by product and services. Can anyone tell me what is this role? By product or service? No, 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 no. By product or service is a category. So here you will be having set of services here. Can anyone tell me what is this role? For example, this is one of the role. What is this role? Uh, Sorry, predefined role. Because as I told you, predefined roles are specific to the service. So by service, you will be having a set of roles. For example, if I go cloud build or if I go to composer. So for this particular service composer, you have a set of roles. These are all predefined roles. So one is composer user, composer worker. Okay, composer worker is a predefined role. Composer worker user also predefined role. So it will be specific to that particular composer only. 1 minute, guys. You can do that, right? You can do that. But the custom role itself, it is sorry. So you can create a custom role from the existing custom role also. But by default, the custom role itself, it is already created from a role. Why can't you, while you are creating the custom role, you can directly create your own role, right? So, but for sure, you can create it. That's perfectly fine. You can come here. Yeah, you can come here, create a role, and you can add any of the permissions related to it. Okay, in that scenario, you can come here and edit role, Or you wanted to create a one more new role itself, you can create it. Because if you wanted to use this one as well as I wanted to use one more also, you can create a new role, or you can edit it this role also. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any other question, guys? Yes. For the specific tables and views, you can create your role. That's perfectly fine. So you can come here, add, and you can say BigQuery. Not a specific table, but can be for a specific all the entire tables in some BigQuery. Okay, so entire tables in the BigQuery. So for example, you can go here somewhere. There will be tables. Yeah, here it is. So if you wanted to provide access to create a table, delete a table, export a delete a snapshot of the table. If you wanted to provide this table related permissions, you can actually provide here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So all these are table permissions only, dot tables. You can able to see. Okay. Yeah. That can be done for that particular. Yeah. Anyone have any other sorry, anyone have any other question? Someone Krishna Vamshi, you are asking something? I can't hear you. Maybe if you're asking something. Okay, he may not be here. That's okay. Yeah, anyone have any other question, guys? Okay, so I'm gonna stop it here for today, guys. So we have covered what is IAM and identity access management, who has what type of an access. Now you got to know IAM nothing but identities, A nothing but a row access. Access will be done via roles. A role is nothing but a set of permissions. You can't grant a permission to the user directly, but instead you can assign a role to them. And types of roles: basic role, predefined role, custom roles. And tomorrow we will see policy. Okay, so this is what we will see tomorrow. That I'm going to stop the session here for today. If anyone have any questions, you can ask me.
Sir, about the notes you wanted, you said you
Yes,
would be sharing notes, right?
correct.
Did you
Yes,
already
recordings will
share?
be shared today only, guys. For the notes access, I'm going to copy and paste the link in the chat. Please take it from here. Okay. Or else in your respective groups also it will be created. Okay. Once you already enrolled for the course, right? So I'm gonna paste in the groups for you. Okay. You can access it from the group. So I'm going to share it in the group. If you are already added to that group, you will be having an access to that. So you can ask the admin that please add me to the group. Okay.
Are you sharing it in the chat, sir? Because I'm not in the group. I don't know if that meant.
Yeah, no, actually for you guys, you do not have any group. I'm sharing it in the chat. You can actually take it from here.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you add us to that group, sir? Who will
I,
add
I
us to
mean,
that group, sir?
they are not managing. Durgasoft is not managing any. But anyway, yeah, I have one group created for you. I'm gonna add it to you guys. You can add. You can go and add yourself into this group. Okay. I have pasted the links in the chat. Yeah. Okay. Okay, guys. Yes. Yeah, group. We cannot create groups in the in our accounts, guys. Group we cannot create because let me show you. The creating the group is very easy. It's like you have to just add 4 to 5 user accounts. But the thing is that that is not added in the trial account. Okay, we are using the free trial account, right? So that is not there, but you can actually see here. So you can click on this is a group section. Okay. Okay, I will cover this group section and I have not covered the service accounts also. That is also important. We will cover. But see here, it is not available. This requires a organization. This is not a direct feature in the trial edition. Yeah. Yeah, I will tell you that tomorrow. We have a organization and we have a folders, we have a projects, and under that you will be having a services. Okay, that I will show you. Resource hierarchy, I will tell you tomorrow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyone have any other question? So, yeah. Bye bye, guys. Thank you all.